Good morning, everybody. I hope you're able to join us for a little bit of yoga this morning. It's Wednesday morning, beautiful day outside, and just ready to kind of get down to the mat and enjoy a little bit of time between you and me on the mat and doing our practice. So come and meet me here, and let's talk about what I've got for you. You know, I unearthed couple of months ago, I know I was talking about Randy Pausch and the last lecture. He had passed from pancreatic cancer, which is a horrible cancer, and he was given 6 months to live. And they typically, in case you're not familiar with the story, at his university, they had a thing called the last lecture, where they would invite professors to come in and speak, and as though it were the last lecture they would ever give. And this actually wound up being Randy Pausch's last lecture that he ever gave of his life. He lived about 5 months longer than diagnosed to live, and he said as one of his final things was, he said, you know, this shows you how positive he was. He goes, you know, I'm just so grateful that I didn't die by being hit by a bus, because with cancer, I had time to prepare my family, to prepare myself, to be able to say the things that I really wanted to say. And that shows you his character and his nature. And in essence, the last lecture was all about being positive, keep reaching for your dreams, keep doing the things that you need to do in spite of the adversities that you're facing. And certainly we're living in a world with a lot of adversities right now, especially in our country. And so I thought it was a nice refresh, and I'll post this online today. I haven't posted many of our quotes. I've been pretty remiss on that, but I'll be posting this one today so that you can take it with you. Life lessons from the last lecture. Number one, people are more important than things. We don't remember that because sometimes acquisition of material things seems to be what is most important about what we can show the world. And yet our relationships and people that are in our lives, whether it be our family, our friends, our acquaintances, whomever, are far more important than those material things. He said, decide if you're a Tigger or an Eeyore. Tigger, energetic, ready to bounce on the world. Eeyore, kind of lax, sitting back, a little depressed all the time. And so he said, you always have a choice in any experience, whether you're going to be a Tigger or an Eeyore. He said, never underestimate the importance of having fun. And he had a fun life. He did all of the fun things that he wanted to do serendipitously throughout his life at some point or another. One of his big hallmarks was to become a consultant with Imagineering in the Disney technological branch. And that was just a dream of his come true. He said, work and play well with others. I don't know if we're all doing such a good job of that lately, but I think it's important to remember to work and play well with others, because we're fellow human beings in a world. And I often try to remind myself that I just don't know what somebody else is going through. So a little extra patience goes a long way. Live with integrity. That doesn't necessarily mean, you know, the ego at the forefront, but it means do the right thing. It really does. It means when you have those decisions of doing right or wrong, do the right thing every single time, even if it takes a little bit away from you. Tell the truth. Being honest with people is so important, and being honest with yourself is even more so. Apologize properly. I was taught as a young child, when we would get in arguments with our siblings, you know, we would argue or fight. The first thing that my parents would say is apologize. And we go, but it was their fault. No, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. You incorporated your energy in that, so apologize. And sometimes what somebody would say is, I'm sorry you got hurt by that. And they would stop us and say, that is not an apology. An apology is taking responsibility for what you did to exacerbate that situation. And the apology is, I'm sorry I did ... I'm sorry I said ... And I learned at a very young age that if you're going to apologize, you apologize right. Otherwise, it falls on dead ears and it does no good for your heart and soul. The next lesson was, if you wait long enough, anyone will show you their good side. His mentor at Imagineering actually taught him that. And he said, people are basically good. And sometimes it just means that you need to wait a really long time for them to show their good side. But if you wait long enough without judgment, they will. And I have certainly found that to be true. The next one is show gratitude. Boy, we hammer that message a lot, especially over the last several years in my yoga classes. I remember several years ago, we introduced keeping a gratitude journal in January. And I still remember one friend of mine talking about how hers was just abundant with, just exploding with information about how grateful she was on any given day about the different things and collections of items in the book. And showing gratitude moves us away from feeling sorry for ourselves, because it kind of moves back to that place of reminding ourselves what an abundant life we have. And then the last lesson that he had was, don't complain, just work harder. And that is a hard lesson for me, because I like to complain sometimes. Sometimes when I'm getting in a conversation, I like to be able to say, this is what's really I'm struggling with right now. But then I recognize that by taking the energy to complain doesn't do any good to help me move along that path away from where I'm complaining about something. And if I work harder and focus more energy at accomplishing things or doing things, even if it's meaning being still in the moment and expressing gratitude, that's working harder, because sometimes for some of us that is really hard to do. All of these components that are his life lessons help us compile these things to create a really beautiful practice. And if you think about any one of these things that you could pick out, whether it's show gratitude or remembering that people are more important than things, the thing being maybe the practice and being meaningful about the fact that your body and your mind are more important. Because the last thing that I'll mention, which he did not mention, but another lecture that I was listening to last couple of days, is that whatever happens in the brain does not stay there. I talked about this yesterday in our tune-up ball class, that whatever you're generating in your mind stuff is actually translating itself into your body. So sometimes you'll have like reactions in your body, you don't feel so good or something, and then you have to kind of maybe double back and step back and find out, where were your thoughts throughout the day? Were you really stressed out about things? Did you have expectations unfulfilled? Maybe you were thinking less about gratitude and more about the things that you would like to have right now. There are a lot of things that we'd all like to have right now. But life is what it is in this moment, and there's always something to be grateful for. So when we open our practice, I want you to try to think about just capturing the things for which you are grateful. And remember that you are the most important component of this practice, as opposed to what you do within the practice from a physical perspective. Your mind is going to be releasing everything that you need to release throughout your body, so you do exactly what you need throughout this practice today. If you're going to use an essential oil, I decided to drag out good old lemon. Lemon is just such an uplift. It's energizing. It feels good. It's like, it sounds like a 60s commercial, but it's like a little 60s, little sunshine in a bottle. So that's the one that I'm using today. And if you have something else you'd like to use, then feel free to put that on. If you've got a little bit of music, have that handy. And let's begin. And just get yourself into a comfortable posture, whatever that looks like for you. And just take a few deep breaths. And as you breathe, just feel that breath moving in and out of your body. Maybe thinking of just a few things for which you are grateful for today. I'm grateful that we can be here together. I'm grateful that we have this technology to join us. I'm grateful for the sun shining. I'm grateful that I woke up. There are so many things that I am grateful for between family, friends, connections, practice. There's an abundance that we have in our lives if we just open the doorway to think about it. And then with one phrase, capture your intention. And just repeat that thought in your mind. And then when you're ready, come to your hands and knees and begin cat-cow flow. If you're playing a little music, feel free to dial that up. And then just feel how your body's feeling today. Just kind of do your check-in as you start to move, recognizing the things that feel good. Maybe some of the things that you need to honor, because maybe some things are struggling a little bit. And then slide back to Balasana, your child's pose. And just extend the arms out and stretch. And don't forget today, if you want to have a strap or a block handy today, feel free to do so. Today's practice, I'm going to modify the things that I need to as though I don't have access to a block or a strap. So if you don't have access to those things, then just follow along with me for certain things and just be really mindful about how you feel today. And
Make sure the things that you do heighten and enhance your practice.
And then lift up into your downward facing dog. And just give a little working stretch from heel to heel. And then walk your way to the top of the mat and rounding the back, roll it up. And just come to the standing mountain pose. Anchor your feet. And then in this posture, just try to stretch out through the top of your head. Create space throughout your body. And then draw the hands to Anjali Mudra, and inhaling, reach the arms up. Exhale into your forward fold. Inhale to flat back. And exhaling to downward facing dog. Now work this first flow at the rate of intensity that you choose. So I'm going to modify the flow for myself, work higher intensity if you choose. As I bring it forward, I'm going to drop to that kneeling plank, and I'm just going to lower the chest and then find cobra. And then press my way back gradually to that downward facing dog. Then step or jump your way to the top of the mat. Take an inhale to flat back. And exhaling, forward fold. Inhale, reach up. Exhaling, hands to heart center. So as you build in your practice, feel free to add more intensity or pull away from the intensity. And as you breathe and start to move into that next sun salutation, remember that idea that whatever we're carrying inside our minds, our brain, doesn't stay there. So you want to try to cultivate a really fertile mindset to be able to feed your practice today so that it feels good to you. And when you walk away from it, you truly feel like you did everything that you needed to do for yourself today. Good. We're going to do 3 more sun salutations today. So just keep moving through at your rate of pace. And sometimes you might find in the midst of one that you just need to modify, and allowing that just to unfold if you need to. And just keep moving through it. Notice the thoughts. It's almost like if you think of a garden, you want to grow a healthy, beautiful garden. And sometimes fertilizing takes place. Well, just think about your mind thoughts as being the fertilizer that feeds that garden. Try to cultivate the most beautiful garden in your mind that you can, and cultivate it with beautiful, uplifting, positive, maybe fun thoughts. Remember, Randy Pausch talks about never underestimate the value of having fun.
So whichever one you're on, because to be honest, I just kind of got lost and I stopped counting and I just started going through all these sun salutations till I felt like my body is warm, and I feel like warmed up now, and hopefully you do too. But if you need to take more sun salutations, feel free to do so. So drawing the feet very close together and being mindful of how that low back feels. If that doesn't feel good to your low back, just take the feet a little wider apart. On the inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, sink into Utkatasana. Inhaling, draw the arms out. Then exhale, draw the hands close in and turn into that twist. And then as you slowly release, rise back up to your mountain pose. So feet are either close together or far apart, and we'll do that to the opposite side. Inhaling, reach up. Exhaling, sink into that chair. Inhaling, arms out. Exhaling into the twist. Then on your release, simply release into forward fold. Then round the back and gently roll it up. Move through 3 chair flows. Inhaling and exhale. Then move through 2 more, taking the breath as slow as you're comfortable taking it. And then release to your mountain. As you step to the top of your mat, feet hip width apart now, step the right foot back and move into pyramid. So from here, if I don't have a block and I can't get my hands down to the mat, I'm just going to soften the front knee a little bit. And I'm not resting my weight on the knee joint. I'm actually resting the palms of my hands towards the more midsection of my thigh. That keeps you from putting compression on the patella, the kneecap. So from here, I can still lengthen through that leg where I can, and I'm anchored pretty well to the mat. And then eventually, if I do feel like I have that bandwidth to be able to go there, I can start sliding my hands down, then use the calf as an anchor, or glide the hands down towards the mat, whichever feels best. Then with the next inhale, rise up to Warrior One, Virabhadrasana 1. Now we're going to connect those 2 postures, Parsvottanasana and Virabhadrasana 1, in a flow. So think of the inhale up here, exhale, lengthen and flow. Inhaling, bending through that knee, anchoring through the feet and rising. Exhale to lower. And just move through that flow 3 more times. Good. Then step that back foot in, round the back and roll it up. Your choice, yogi's choice, insert a sun salutation here. Any rate of intensity, or feel free to disregard it. If there's something else that is tugging at you to do within your practice, feel free to follow that road. Good. Then sliding that left foot back and gradually making your way into the pyramid that feels best to you. And just taking a few breaths. And remember, it can be a process. It doesn't have to be all one thing or another. Just gotta check in with how you're feeling. Did you find an accommodation in the posture that fulfills you, makes you feel good? That's important. Then when you're ready, inhaling, rise up to your warrior one and just take a breath or two there. And then we'll start that flow. Then inhaling here and exhaling into Parsvottanasana. Then inhaling into your Virabhadrasana. Exhaling back to Parsvottanasana. And flowing through it 3 more times. And remembering that your breath flow and mine are going to probably be different. You may be breathing even slower, maybe faster, or maybe at the same rate of pace, whichever you choose. Good. Then press the hands to the mat, step back to downward facing dog. From here, flow if you like, or just hold there and move into child's pose, whichever feels best. And then bring your weight back to the top of the mat, rounding the back, rolling it up, and finding your Tadasana, your mountain pose once again. Good. So we're going to move into Gardasana, eagle pose. And remember, accommodate what you need to in this posture. I'm going to take it in gradual stages. So as I'm crossing my right foot over the left, I'm going to keep my feet anchored right here. And I'm going to bend through both of the knees. Then opposite from where the legs are, the left elbow goes on top of the right. As I sink in here, I could certainly hold here or start drawing up that right leg a little bit, if balance is willing and giving here today. But certainly, it always is okay to modify and give yourself a little more support if you need to. And then gently release from the pose. Remember that if you're at home against a wall somewhere, moving your eagle pose against the wall can be really supportive too if it's just one of those days. So let's take a breath, and then when you're ready, crossing that left foot over the right, then right elbow on top of left. Sink in and get yourself anchored first before you move into the balance, and then gradually make your way there. and then slowly release. One of the things that I like to do is explore where my head goes when I'm in balance. I don't know about you, but sometimes I have all these conversations about, oh, can you do the balance? Look at something. Nope, focus there. Nope, if I focus there, then I'm going to start losing my balance. I mean, isn't that funny? I don't know if you're like that, but that's the way I am. So, and it doesn't matter how many years I've been practicing, I'm still like that. So the next posture we're going to move into is in balancing half moon. So go ahead and fall into your forward fold. Now this one's tricky if you can't get your hands all the way to the mat. So what I usually recommend is if you can't get your hands to the mat and that feels uncomfortable to you, then you have a couple of options. The trickier option is to hold on to that standing ankle and then move your way into that posture. So that is really quite a challenge, but you could do that. Otherwise, move into another balance pose that you like. That's always an option. If you're moving into this particular pose, anchor the hands, lifting up through one leg, and then roll open that hip, and then whatever leg is lifted, that arm is what rises. Good, and then slowly release from there. And then round the back and roll it up once again. Take a cycle of breath. And then as you are ready, release into that forward fold or modifications to another pose and work that stretch and balance to the opposite side. Notice I said stretch because you're really lengthening out through the body. You're not just in the balance, you're stretching through the body so that you're creating a lot of space within the pose. And then gently release from there, rounding the back and roll it up. And then just take a couple of deep breaths. Check in. How are you cultivating your mindset to feed the practice that feeds your body and your wellness, your overall sense of well-being? That's what we want from this practice. So we're going to move it to the mat and we're going to do a little bit of abdominal work. So hands at the heart center. Inhale, reach up. Exhaling into your forward fold. Inhale to flat back. And then as you exhale, press it back to your downward facing dog. And then work through your flow, if you choose. And then return to a kneeling or high plank. So here's the high plank. You can always drop those knees down if you prefer. So you have the option. And just suspend the posture as strong as you can. Keep modifying between the two. If you feel like, gosh, I don't know if I can stay there much longer, then just drop those knees down and alternate between that. Then slowly release the knees down and then push your way back into an upright kneeling posture. Move into Ustrasana, taking the hands to either side of the spine, just above the pelvis. Open up that chest. Be mindfully lengthening through your spine so that you feel nothing in that low back. Go deeper if you'd like. And then release to the hands and knees. Inhale, slope the back in. Exhale, arch it out. Then as you bring that back to flat back, neutral position, inhaling, lengthen through the left arm and right leg, and we're going to bring the elbow in to touch the knee, and do that a few more times. Inhale to stretch, exhale to bring it in. Good. And then release and work it to the alternate side. Inhaling, lengthen that right arm and left leg. Exhale, bring it in, and keep moving through that flow. Always remember, if something feels like you are struggling with it, mind all the way, mind is really battling it, then remember that translates to the body. So let that go for a little bit and then come back when you're ready. And one more. Good. And then move through cat-cow flow once again. Inhaling, slope the back in. Exhale, arch it out. Good. And then come to a seated posture on your mat. Do a little check-in. If you need to grab a little water, certainly grab some. We're going to be doing a little bit more on the abdominals from our back lying posture. So when we move into the next round of abdominals, I'm going to move this out to the side so I don't knock into it. What I want you to think about is that at all times, you can slide your hands underneath your hips to give your back more support, because when the abdominals get weak, and that doesn't mean that you're weak, it just means that that muscular portion of your body is developing, or maybe you've had something that happened that is not quite as strong. So you need to provide yourself with more support. And sometimes just sliding the hands underneath the hips like that just give that whole abdominal system a lot more help. So remember, think about supporting yourself so the mind doesn't run away with you. Now, inhaling, lift the legs up, and then exhale the air out. And then with the next breath, just drop that right leg so that it's parallel to the ground. And then bring the chin to the chest and roll it up, and just pause here. Good. And then roll it back. Take a deep inhale, and on the exhale, slowly lift that right leg. Pull the belly in when you exhale. Then take a cycle of breath. And then lower that left leg so that it is parallel to the floor. Notice I'm pointing out through the heel of my foot. I'm flexing my feet. Then chin to chest and roll it up, and just pause. Good. And then as you roll it down, take an inhale, and then on the exhale, slowly lift that left leg. Good. Keeping both legs up. Go ahead and bring the chin to the chest, roll it up, and hold. Then slowly roll it back and draw the knees to your chest and rock side to side. Great. So with the next round, and again, you can pop those hands underneath your hips, lift both legs up. Inhaling, drop the right leg. Exhale, engage your belly muscles and bring that leg up. So it almost feels like you inhale, you're expanding your torso with breath. exhale, pull in through that rib cage as you lift. Inhaling, dropping the right leg. Exhale, engage and lift. Inhaling with the left. Exhaling, engage and lift. And just keep alternating from side to side. Good. And one more time to each side if you're comfortable with that. Always remember, if you're starting to struggle in your head or in your body, that's starting to bring your practice away from where you want to be. And then draw the knees to the chest and just rock side to side. Good. And then roll yourself up. You can always roll yourself to one side if you like, and then come to that upright seated posture. Just extend those legs out, maybe pop the knees a little bit if you feel like a little tension load in your legs. And then moving into forward fold. So I'm strapless today, and so I'm going to lengthen through my spine and just lean forward and grab onto my ankles. Now I could reach towards the toes, but notice what happens. I'll give you a side view on that. When I start to do that, I start to roll my shoulder forward, and you might notice a little bit more of a bow on my back. And where I want to be is really lengthened through the spine, so I'm not crashing forward or collapsing. And as I do this, I'm actually getting a really grand stretch through my hamstrings, which is really the point of the posture. So just find your way in there. Of course, if you have a strap to anchor you, or if you've got that range of motion to be able to grab onto those toes, go a little deeper. Just pay real close attention to your low back, because you shouldn't feel it there. Good. And then release from there. Nice. Go ahead and draw the soles of your feet together, and you're going to walk your hips towards the heels. Then hold on to your ankles and lengthen through the spine and lean into it. Way high up into those adductors on the inner thighs. Good. And then release from there. And now we'll work into a seated twist. So just draw one heel to the hip, opposite arm grabs on, lengthen and rotate. Such an energetic posture. I love twists when I do them right. When I don't do them right, or I'm rushing along through a practice and I jump into a twist too quick, it usually goes to my back or my shoulders. So I'm pretty mindful. And then release and switch it to the opposite side. Good. And then release from there. And then bend your knees and roll it down to the mat. So here, I typically always offer an opportunity to do any type of partial inversion or any open pose that you want to. So with bridge is the introduction to inversions. And also standing forward fold. Those are all considered inversions. Anytime that you're dropping the head kind of below the heart, then you're engaging in a type of inversion. And everybody has different ranges of inversions that they like to go into. So the first one is if I'm not using a block and I've got weak abs and they're just not feeling up to the game today, then I can ball my fists and just lift the hips and place them behind my buttocks on either side. And this is an inversion. This is like a very basic, probably on the scale of intensity, very low intensity inversion. And then from here, you can go deeper if you want. You can start lifting those hips, use a block if you want, or move into shoulder stand, a headstand, if that's in your wheelhouse. Or if you prefer just none of these types of inversions, moving into a forward fold from a standing posture, you can do that. Good old Uttanasana is a great one to move into. So just give yourself a few breaths to absorb whatever posture that you're engaged in today. Let it be whatever you're engaging in, let it be on the exuberant side that's comfortable for you. And just maybe taking 2 or 3 more breaths, longer if you want. It is your time. Good, and then slowly release, drawing those knees to the chest and give yourself a rock from side to side. Now we're moving into supine Kapotasana, which means face up pigeon pose. So we're going to cross the left ankle over the right thigh and just draw the hands behind that thigh and bring that leg in. When I do this, I have the opportunity to be able to press my elbow to the inside of my thigh, which actually gives me a little bit more range in the stretch, and it feels good. I don't feel like I'm fighting anything. But if you have another variation you'd like to go into, then feel free to do that. And just take a few breaths right here. It's always a good stretch, no matter what. And then release when you're ready and switch it to the opposite side. Good. And then release from there. Let's draw your knees to the chest and rock side to side. Then with our next final stretches that we're moving into, if you have a strap, use those. You may feel comfortable in lying big toe and revolve lying big toe, extension of leg. I'm modifying today. So I'm going to bring that right knee to my chest, stretch the left leg down, and I'm simply going to bring that leg out to the side with the knee bent. I'm getting a great stretch on the inside of my thigh. If you're comfortable extending that leg all the way out, go for it. If you need to use a strap and have that handy, feel free to do that as well. So let's just open up into whichever posture variation is good for you. I opened up all the windows of the house today because it was cool enough to do that and just really aired things out. And I'm just inhaling deep all of that nice fresh air. Then as you bring the leg up, crossing it over. Remember, I'm modifying. I'm just going to shift my hips over, keep the knee bent, and pull that leg over to the side. And that's my revolve lying big toe. Just take a couple more breaths there. And then release from there. When you bring it back to your back body, just kind of realign your hips. And then draw that left knee in. And then bring it out to the side. Remember, you can lengthen that leg out if you choose. You can use a strap. And you can breathe nice and deep. Just take 1 or 2 more breaths. And then bring the leg up, cross it right over into any variation on that rotation that you'd like. And just take 1 or 2 more breaths. Longer if you like, less if you like, just whatever feels good to you. And then just move into a posture for Shavasana. If you need to stretch it out a little bit more, or there's something that you really need to include, feel free. Otherwise, just let yourself go. There's a lot of life lessons that we can bring to mind. And certainly Randy Pausch, through the last of his life, served us all by giving what he felt were the most important life lessons. People are more important than things. Decide if you're a Tigger or an Eeyore in how you approach life. Never underestimate the importance of having fun. Work and play well with others. Live with integrity. Tell the truth. Apologize properly. If you wait long enough, anyone will show you their good side. Show gratitude and don't complain. Just work a little harder. Any one of those could be a life lesson that we could carry for the day or for our lifetimes. So you've done so much for yourself that it's time for you to just bask in what you have done for yourself and completing the fertilizing and the nurturing of that beautiful garden of your practice. So just keep letting go, and when it's time to come back, I'll come for you.
Take a breath. Give yourself a little bit of a stretch. And then when you're ready, gradually make your way to an upright seated posture, but take your time. Let's draw our hands to the heart. I think the most beautiful thing that I recall often about Randy Pausch's The Last Lecture and what it taught me is the beauty of living a life lesson so much that you're actually sharing it with others just by your own actions. And that's what he did throughout his life. Served as a great teacher far beyond the lecture podium. So let's be mindful on this day of the life lessons that are important to us, not just to practice them, but to share them so that we can all learn from each other. Lokaha samistaha sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy, free, and at peace. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a splendidly beautiful, absolutely wonderful day, and go ahead and share those life lessons as you practice them each and every moment.